The Lord was with Jehoshaphat because he followed the example of his father's early years and did not worship the images of Baal. He sought his father's God and obeyed his commands instead of following the evil practices of the kingdom of Israel. So the Lord established Jehoshaphat's control over the kingdom of Judah. All the people of Judah brought gifts to Jehoshaphat, so he became very wealthy and highly esteemed. He was deeply committed to the ways of the Lord. He removed the pagan shrines and Asherah poles from Judah. But, yeah, so, I love how it specifies, followed the example of his father's early years. Not the later years, the early years. Because it was the early years where King Asa was thoroughly dedicated to the Lord. Later on, not so much. What's up, cool people? My name's Matt. Welcome back to our Bible study. Alright, we're looking at 2 Chronicles chapter 17 right now. Last chapter, we went over the final years of King Asa, who had started off really well as king of Judah. He tore down all the idols and led the people to make a new covenant, or a new dedication covenant, I guess you might say. And, push themselves even more so to following the Lord and his commands. But later on, he kind of drifted away from that, tried to rely more on himself and his own means than on God. So he wound up dying in part because he got a disease that he didn't even bother to ask God for help with healing. But yeah, so we're about 3 generations removed from the split of Judah and Israel. Now we'll see what happens after King Asa in chapter 17 here. Then Jehoshaphat, Asa's son, became the next king. He strengthened Judah to stand against any attack from Israel. He stationed troops in all the fortified towns of Judah, and he assigned additional garrisons to the land of Judah and to the towns of Ephraim that his father Asa had captured. The Lord was with Jehoshaphat because he followed the example of his father's early years and did not worship the images of Baal. He sought his father's God and obeyed his commands instead of following the evil practices of the kingdom of Israel. So the Lord established Jehoshaphat's control over the kingdom of Judah. All the people of Judah brought gifts to Jehoshaphat, so he became very wealthy and highly esteemed. He was deeply committed to the ways of the Lord. He removed the pagan shrines and Asherah poles from Judah. And you might say, I thought they were already removed by his father. Well, I guess they snuck back in. Probably in the later years of King Asa's life, when he himself was not so dedicated to the Lord. Either that, or saying all was a bit of an exaggeration. This doesn't even say he removed all the pagan shrines, but it does say that he removed them. So he definitely put in effort towards keeping the people worshiping God instead of other made-up deities around them. So yeah, Jehoshaphat is King Asa's son, normal kingly succession. But yeah, so I love how it specifies, followed the example of his father's early years. Not the later years, the early years. Because it was the early years where King Asa was thoroughly dedicated to the Lord. Later on, not so much. What does the note there say? Some Hebrew manuscripts read the example of his father David. I mean, it could be argued that early on in King Asa's life, he kind of followed the example of David with his commitment to the Lord. So, similar meaning. David was not obviously his direct father, ancestrally, but David was indeed an ancestor of Jehoshaphat. So, like, kind of still father-like in that way, just that he was some level of grandfather in that chain. Anyway. Point is, he was more dedicated to the Lord than maybe people had been in some of the later years of his actual direct father's life. So where it says he was deeply committed to, Hebrew could read, his heart was courageous in the ways of the Lord. Again, I take that to have a similar meaning. Now, I mean, he could have been committed to following God's ways himself without tearing down the pagan shrines and such. So maybe that's more so where saying he was courageous in that is a bit more fitting, because it takes more courage to destroy the idolatry around you than it does to just, follow God's commands yourself as an individual. But anyway, so since Jehoshaphat was so dedicated to the Lord, his rule started off well. He was, as it says, very wealthy and highly esteemed. And his kingdom was well established. Alright. Verse 7. In the 3rd year of his reign, Jehoshaphat sent his officials to teach in all the towns of Judah. These officials included Ben-Hail, Obadiah, Zechariah, Nethanel, and Micaiah. He sent Levites along with them, including Shemaiah, Nethaniah, Zebediah, Asahel, Shemiramoth, Jehonathan, Adonijah, Tobijah, and Tob-Adonijah. He also sent out the priests Elishama and Jehoram. They took copies of the book of the law of the Lord and traveled around through all the towns of Judah, teaching the people. Then the fear of the Lord fell over all the surrounding kingdoms, so that none of them wanted to declare war on Jehoshaphat. Some of the Philistines brought him gifts and silver as tribute, and the Arabs brought 7,700 rams and 7,700 male goats. So Jehoshaphat became more and more powerful and built fortresses and storage cities throughout Judah. He stored numerous supplies in Judah's towns and stationed an army of seasoned troops at Jerusalem. His army was enrolled according to ancestral clans. I'm going to pause there for a little bit. Okay, so some of these names definitely ring a bell. I don't know for sure if we're talking that Obadiah or Zechariah or what other names rang a bell? Zebediah. Although I don't think Zebediah is actually the one with a book of the Bible named after him. Obadiah and Zechariah, there are definitely books of the Bible with those names. But I don't know if it's that Obadiah and Zechariah. Probably not with Zechariah, I'd imagine. Anyway, tangent. But so he actually, sent the religious leaders around throughout the kingdom to help teach the people how they were supposed to follow God's commands, essentially. And, I mean, that would be why they took copies of the Book of the Law of the Lord, so that they could have the law right there and be able to read it to them. So, that still doesn't really explain why the fear of the Lord fell over the surrounding kingdoms. I mean, could just be God, working elsewhere. Not necessarily in direct relation to what was happening in Judah, although, Jehoshaphat's dedication to the Lord might have been part of the reason that the Lord God would, send out his, or cause his fear to permeate throughout the surrounding kingdoms. Cause fear of him, not like God is fearful. So, probably then in part because of things being peaceful, Jehoshaphat's able to, build more fortresses and storage cities and continue to make things even better, at least from a defense and supply standpoint. So, now we get a little breakdown of the army. So, it says they were enrolled according to ancestral clans, and then we get this little bit, like halfway through verse 14. From Judah, there were 300,000 troops organized in units of 1,000 under the command of Adnah. Next in command was Jehohanan, who commanded 280,000 troops. Next was Amasiah, son of Zikri, who volunteered for the Lord's service, with 200,000 troops under his command. From Benjamin, there were 200,000 troops equipped with bows and shields. They were under the command of Eliadah, a veteran soldier. Next in command was Jehozabad, who commanded 180,000 armed men. These were the troops stationed in Jerusalem to serve the king, besides those Jehoshaphat stationed in the fortified towns throughout Judah. So that's in addition to the kind of I'd almost more equate it to the idea of the National Guard instead of, the straight up army. But, yeah, I guess there were sort of more permanently stationed defenses in certain towns. And then there was the big bulk of the army who could, move about the kingdom and elsewhere as needed, depending on, different wars and battles and other needs. So, it says they were enrolled according to their clans. I don't think the commanders were necessarily the namesakes of the clans, but they were probably leaders within each of the clans. No, I was gonna say, oh wait, maybe some of these names are the clan names, but no. Judah, maybe. Might have been a clan of Judah and a clan of Benjamin, but within the tribes there were other clans. And it doesn't really give any additional clan names. Anyway, so 300,000 under the command of Adnah. I'm curious about the total now. 580,000, 780,000, all from Judah, plus another 380,000 from Benjamin. So that's 1.1 million, which is bigger than the army that had invaded a few chapters ago from Kush/Ethiopia. But meanwhile, at that time, the kingdom of Judah and Benjamin only had like half the size of that army. So now they've like doubled in size. I don't know if there's any real significance to that other than it speaks to how much more battle ready and fortified that the kingdom was. Anyway, okay. Lest I carry on other tangents, that's really all the more I got for 2 Chronicles 17. Okay, so long story short, Jehoshaphat takes over as king of Judah, and he follows the Lord, takes away idols, things go well. That pretty much sums it up. Army gets bigger, seemingly, or at least is large, and he's able to fortify towns and make food stores better, like food stockpiles, I guess. So yeah, good things happening so far. But yeah, as always, like and share if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel, click the bell to get updates when I post new videos, look down in the description for links to social media pages, Discord server supporter page, any way you might want to interact with my content and find it. And down below all that, leave your thoughts and questions in the comment section if you're so inclined. So that's it for now. Hope you're all doing well. Hopefully I'll see you soon for another video. But whatever the case is, till next time, stay cool, people.